meaning of the second mantra, which was Yate Yata Yeshu Shivatama Shivam Babhuvate Dhanuhu Siva Saravya Yatavatayano Rudramudaya. Now today we are going to learn the meaning of the next two slokams, that mantras. I keep saying slokams, they are not slokams. There's a difference between shlokam and mantram. Shlokam is something that is composed. Mantram is that is not composed. You understand the difference? Shlokam means which is composed by someone. It's their mental projection. But mantra is not a mental projection. Mantra is what somebody has actually seen. These are seers. They are not actually composed by anybody. For each of these mantras that we are learning, there is a rishi behind it. Each mantra that you are learning has a rishi behind it, a great scientist who has actually seen the mantra. And they actually, as they saw it, they narrated it. There was no composition. Okay, so last class also I said a few times shloka. Shloka is incorrect. It should be called mantra. So the third mantra is Yamishum Girishanta Haste Bibharishyastave. Now Yate Rudra Shiva Tanura Ghora Papakashini. So Yate Rudra Shiva Tanu Aghora Apapakashini Tayanas Tanuva Shantamaya Girishanta Abhichakasihi. So that's the way exactly to split it in a way to understand the meaning. Yamishum Girishamta Haste Bibharshihi Stave Hastave Bibharshyastave Sivam Giritratam Kuru Mahigum Sihi Purusham Jagat. Now, Girisham, see, it's important. In this particular mantra, there is a fourth aspect that is being introduced. So far, we connected to different, fifth aspect actually. Four aspects we have connected to so far. The first one is, to begin with, it is Rudra. Rudra is the source of all the forces. First force is the force of, hello, you have to be quick, otherwise every class I'll repeat the same thing. The first force is? First force is wisdom. Hello, wisdom. Ichha, you have to remember it as Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Then you will get it what it is. Trikarana Shuddhi, yeah. The first is the force of wisdom, and that is Manyu. The second is the force of thought, and that is Ishu, and also referred to as arrow. Now you become experts in this, you can start taking classes also. So, Ishu. The next one is Dhanu. Dhanu is the mind. Mind also is the bow that launches the arrows. Yeah, bow launches the arrows, not the thoughts. Okay. Now the next one is Bahu. Bahu. Bahu is shoulders. Next one is Saravya. Saravya is quiver. Quiver is the one that is storing all the arrows, but also quiver is the one, not shiver. Quiver is the one that is storing all the instincts from which the thoughts come. So the place where all the instincts are stored is the quiver. Now, how many have we covered? 5. Any of these 5 you cannot connect to, that is not related to you, please raise your hand. Oh, okay. That's very honest. Bahu is shoulders. That's Kriya Shakti, the ability to do action. Yeah. Okay. So if any of you cannot connect to any of these simple things that we are talking about, which is thought, mind, knowledge, instinct, shoulders to do work, then please go to a psychologist. Because there is nothing here that is related to, not anybody can understand. You don't need to know big religion and high funda philosophy, nothing like it. It's very simple, down to earth. Huh? See how simple Rudram has become? That we are thinking so complex to chant and all that. All of a sudden, once you connect to what is the inner meaning of all of this stuff is, it is all related to ourselves. Now in this next shloka, there is a shloka, mantra, there is the aspect of, there is a sixth one that is being introduced called Giri. Yamishum girishanta haste bibharshyastave. Now what is Giri? Giri is? Huh? Mountain, yeah? Wait, how can it be nothing? Yeah. Okay. Yes? Huh? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I keep going to that one. I don't know why today. Okay. Happy Father's Day. Very good. So it was so beautiful yesterday because there was the installation of the moving Shirdi Baba from Sanatana Dharma Kendra to another big temple in Milbeatas. It was amazing. And for Mother's Day, we celebrated Ishwarama's Day, and then for Father's Day, we celebrated in front of Baba yesterday. We started in the morning. They wanted to start the whole program with Nama Sankirtan. So we were in front of Swami singing for 1.5 hours Nama Sankirtanam. And so it was so phenomenal. So then I remembered that Swami actually blessed us to perform in front of him for Father's Day. So that was how we conveyed our thanks to Divine Baba, Father and Mother. So Yamishum, no, not Yamishum. Yate Rudra, Siva Tanu Raghora, Apapakashini, Tayanas Tanuva Girishanta Abhichakasihi. Tayanas Tanuva Shantamaya Girishanta Abhichakasihi. So there is a fifth or sixth one. What are we introducing? Sixth aspect that is now introduced called Giri. Giri, somebody said, is mountain. Yeah, that is the literal translation of mountain. So what is written as a literal meaning of that particular mantra is Yamishum Yate Rudra Shiva Tanu Raghora Apapakashini Tayanas Tanuva Shantamaya Girishanta Bhichakasihi. Rudra, O destroyer. That's what literal meaning is. This is what is written in Veda Pushpanjali. By that supremely peaceful form of yours, which destroys sin and which is auspicious and blissful, give us the knowledge supreme. Now somebody said Giri is mountain. No mountain referred. Huh? So you have to understand 3 different things now. First one is called Guri, second is called Guru, and third is called Giri. Now I'm playing with letters like Swami does. Guri, Guru, Giri. Guri means, Telugu వాళ్ళు చెప్పండి. Laksham, goal, destiny. Guri. Guri means in Telugu, it means Laksham, destiny, goal. Kuri. Very good, yeah, excellent. Because Tamil has less number of letters than Telugu, that's why you have to make it different, yeah. So that's a different topic, sorry. So, okay, Guri, and then next one is Guru. That everybody has understanding of what Guru is. Guru is the one who is? Teacher. What does he teach? See, this is the... Knowledge. He is the one that guides you to the destiny. So the first one is Guri, which is destiny or goal. Guru is the one that guides you to the destiny. And what is that destiny is Giri, which is supreme knowledge. And this supreme knowledge that he and you are only one and the same. You understand? I will tell a story for the children. You probably have already heard that. When I was a little boy, this is a story. Actually, Dattatreya told Parashurama, but Ramakrishna Paramahamsa really loves this, used to tell to devotees about this story. What is the purpose of a guru? The purpose of a guru is to show you the destiny. And the destiny is the supreme knowledge, which is nothing but he and you are one. And he is saying, I am God, you are God, you and I are one. That means what? That we are him and he is God. That means we are. Yeah, very say hello. This is rocket science I am talking. Huh? Why you guys are all blissed out? Huh? Okay. So, how do we understand that the Guru is the one that is pointing out that he and we are one? How do we understand this? Huh? How do we comprehend that? To understand this, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, how many of the children here know about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa? No, huh? How? Which of you here know? Yeah, you know Ramakrishna Paramahamsa? None of the children here know who Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is?
He's like said stories about him and all, but we haven't really learned.
See, now we have to. When we were children, the grandparents used to talk about only those kind of people only. And the parents also used to refer to these kind of great souls only. And I was born and brought up in Ramakrishna Mission. That's the origin of my seeds of great satsang was in Ramakrishna Mission. Bhagavan Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was a great soul that lived in Calcutta, in a place where he was actually, it's a beautiful story. Maybe one of these days we should start just having satsang about Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Vivekananda, Bhagavan Ramana, Aurobindo, all these kind of great souls that are not too far away. Only 125 years ago, these great souls lived, not too far away. And take these stories of these great souls and see how they lived, what they taught, what they stood for, so that you really understand with these as role models what really dharmic living is and how they taught the whole world around him. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was the one. How many of you heard Vivekananda? Yeah? Yes? Hello? Confident? Yes, you heard him. Raji, yes? Yeah. Who is he? Okay. Vivekananda was the first, actually the seer or the saint that traveled to the Western world to spread the mission of Sanatana Dharma, the eternal wisdom, the eternal way of living. Okay. When we learn about these great souls, we actually understand Swami more better. Let me be also clear about that. So there is some confusion that in order to know Swami, we should not go to anybody else. That is actually misperception. Single-pointed focus is when you understand the teachings of these great souls, then you actually understand Swami much better, what Swami is saying. So going back to the story about how do we know that Guru and us are the one and what is the destiny he is pointing us to. In order to illustrate this, Bhagavan Ramakrishna Paramahamsa used to tell a story that was actually originally told by Dattatreya to Parashurama. And that story was, once upon a time, in a forest lived a lioness. A lioness means female lion, which was pregnant, carrying a cub. And in an exertion to go and catch its food, a flock of sheep were going in the forest, and flock of sheep. No, even that English is not now lost. Ayyo, what can I say? Flock of sheep. You heard flock of sheep? No? It's a collective noun referred to refer to a group of sheep is called a flock of sheep. Okay? So, that the sheep were going and this lioness went to attack this sheep, and in the process, it actually exertion, it delivered the cub and it died. And this cub, lion cub, Simba, was brought up by these sheep. The sheep took compassion to this cub, and they took the cub with them, and this slowly, this cub, lion, this cub was eating grass, just like other sheep, and it was saying, meh, meh. Yeah, because it was brought up by the sheep, and because the sheep were eating grass, it was also eating grass. Because the sheep was saying meh, the cub was also saying meh. Then what happened? After a few years passed, when this sheep along with the cub were going in the forest, a big lion came onto a rock and it roared. When it roared like that, all the sheep ran away. But this cub could not run as fast as the sheep. So it could not run fast. It got scared and it tumbled and it was rolling in the grass. It looked at this huge, big lion that has incredible hair, and then it was scared and it said, huh? And then the lion looked at this cub and it knew something was wrong. Then it did not do, it basically went to this cub and then picked up the cub. How do you know how the lions pick up the cub? With their teeth, yeah, like that. It picked it up and then it took the cub, the lion took him to the cub, to the lake, and showed the cub its reflection. And then the cub was surprised for its life. Why?
Thought it was a sheep.
Only children alone, under 15.
Because it thought it was a sheep.
Because it thought it was a sheep. So what happened?
So he thought that he looked like the other sheep.
Yeah, he thought he looked like the other sheep. And there was the other thing that it could not understand. What was it saying all the time? Now what did the guy that looked like him, now when he looked back at him, he looked like this guy that actually did what? Roared. He didn't say meh. It said roared. Its roar was so powerful that everybody around him just ran away. That was how powerful the roar of the lion was. So that was the second thing it surprised. My God, I look like this guy who actually roared, and all the guys that were living with me so far just got scared and ran away. It was really confused. It said, oh my God, what a power I have. All of a sudden, I look like this guy. And then the lion actually then took him to the cave, and then it threw a piece of flesh at him. And then when this little cub licked the flesh, then this doesn't mean you should become non-vegetarians, No, I want to be clear. Just very clear, okay? Because this is the nature of the lion to eat meat, not ours. So because it never eats grass. Grass is not the actual food for the lion. It's a carnivorous animal. So once it licked the flesh, then automatically it said, so now, what did the lion do? Hello, now you are all lost. Now let's come to the moral of the story. The story is beautiful so far. What happened in this story? What did if you take in this story, now I will make it even more simple, like the peeling the banana, and then you kind of take it, put in, and then you also eat, because you can't even eat a banana, I have to mash it and then put it inside, pour some milk so it becomes banana milkshake and you can just drink it, or what? At least you should put some effort, children, to connect to what is the symbolic aspect about this story. Is, in this story, we are all these lion cubs raised by a number of sheep. They are all scared and we are also scared. They all say meh, we also say meh. We think the way of living is in fear, in stress, in distress, in discomfort, in commotion. That is how, this is Swami Vivekananda's favorite story to talk to the children. Then he says, children, you should not be fearful. You should not be scared. You are the lions of this nation. And you should be basically fearless. Because the ultimate teaching of spirituality is to be fearless. How is it that the lion is the king of the forest even though the elephant is more powerful than the lion? How? Only because of one quality, which is fearlessness. The lion is the king of forest because it is fearless. And there could be more mighty animals like the mammoths in the forest, but even the mammoth has a little bit of fear on the top of its head. There is a small piece of muscle. If you press on it, the mammoth or the huge elephant gets scared. It's fearful because it gets a splitting headache when you just press on that muscle. That is how fearful the elephant is. Whereas the lion has absolutely no fear. Nothing can touch the lion to scare it. And that's why it is the king of the forest. So, Swami Vivekananda says, every child should be brought up with confidence. Every child should be brought up in fearlessness, not to teach them fear. Not to teach them, hey, go pray to God, otherwise God will punish you. This is what is taught to the children. That is so nonsense, because God will never punish. God is only love. Go break a coconut, otherwise God will curse you. No, what? All this stuff is chumma. Huh? You understand? Now, we are what are we in that story? The sheep. Yeah, that's connect. I've been saying the others are the sheep. We are the cubs. Hello, yeah? We are the cubs. And the cubs are the ones that live like other sheep. They are always fearful, they are always stressed out, mortgage stress, this stress, that stress, all those stress, green card stress, all those stresses. But we should not be worried about those stresses because we are the lions. And then in this story, Swami is the big lion with lot of hair. Same thing here, lot of hair. Look at the lion, how beautiful it is. His hair, when it does like this, the hair goes. And look at the lion, when it is looking, it actually, when it is lying down, if you watch the lions, recently I've been in Africa, so it's very interesting to watch the lions. The lions, when they lie down, if you watch them, the lions actually open their eyes only halfway and they look only halfway through. They are in meditation, all the constant focus, concentration and awareness and fearlessness. Shrunvantu Vishve Amrutatva Putraha. Amrutasya Putraha. You are the son of immortality, therefore you should not fear. This is the essence of teaching of the Vedas. So this fear is basically instilled so that you do things properly. But that is not fear. You should not fear. You should discipline, not make the children fear for anything. And so this fear, once it is lost, who is coming and demonstrating you are like me? Now what in the story, what happened? He took the cub and showed the reflection. And that reflection is showing the destiny. He did not give a lecture to the cub, did he? All the time giving lectures like me. So he did not lecture to the cub. He just went and picked the cub. And what did he? Silently just went and showed the reflection. And once we see ourselves, then we realize that ourself is like him. And then we get astonished. Oh my God. Why am I living all this fear? Why am I living in all this stress? I am like this guy who came and roared and was fearless. Now this is Giri. This knowledge of yourself is Giri. And the Guri is the reflection. The Guru is the lion. Now what are we learning? Yamishum? No. Yate Rudra Siva Tanur Aghora Apapakashini. Now you see, very interesting connected to this story. In this set it says, O Rudra, your form of yours should be Aghora. Ghora means fearful. Aghora means the one that does not cause the fear. So, Aghora and Ghora. Now look at this prayer. In that story, if the lion actually showed its fearful form to the cub and went and said, "Hey, you fool, why are you so scared? Why are you saying meh? Why are you eating grass and all that?" Then it is a Ghora. Aghora means he did not shout, yell and beat up the cub. What did he do? He just took him to the lake and showed the river. That is Aghora. Now you can look at the lion. The lion, when it is fearful like Narasimha, it can destroy the greatest of the demon with its fearfulness. That is the story of Narasimha, right? And so much, when you look at the Vajranakhaya vidmahe teshnadaggastraya dhimahi tanno narasigambha prachodayat. Vajranakha. Vajranakha means the nails are as strong as diamonds. Vajranakhaya vidmahe tikshnadaggastraya dhimahi. Tishnadaggastram. Daggastram means the teeth. Tikshnam. Tikshnam means fearful. So in the story of this lion, if the lion decided to become fearful at the cub would be destroyed. So what did the lion, when it looked with compassion at this lion, it's looking at it and said, meh, then it actually felt compassionate for this cub. It did not, that is Aghora. You understand? Connecting to the story. Aghora. Apapakashini. Papa means sin. Apapakashini means the one that destroys the sin. So when people chant this mantra, they say, Tanur Aghora, Papakashini they say. Which is exactly opposite meaning. That means let me shine the sin. Until you see, this is the reason why Swami is saying, learn the meaning and chant. Because when you learn the meaning properly and you chant, which is not the case in 90% of the people that are chanting, then this particular understanding, the intent won't come into picture. The prayer would be very different. Okay, let's chant the slokam, mantra. Tanura Ghora Papakashini. See, Apapaka is implicit in that. Yate Rudra Shiva Tanura Ghora Papakashini Ayana Stanu Bhashantamaya Virishantabhijakasihi. Now, the next part of the mantram is saying, with that pleasant form of yours, Aghora, destroy our sins, destroy our fears, destroy our mistakes. And Tayanastanuva Shantamaya, so that we can actually realize the supreme knowledge, knowing ourselves. Girishanta Bhichakasihi. Girisham means the one who is at the top of the mountain. That's what it literally means. Girisham means the one who is actually giving the supreme knowledge. Abhichakasihi, with this infinite compassion, he is illuminating. Illuminate us with your peaceful form of yours. Illuminate us and destroy the one that actually destroys all the sins. The peaceful form that is destroying the ignorance that we are the sheep, the ignorance that we are the mortals, the ignorance that we have to live in fear and stress and strain. And therefore, help us achieve this supreme goal of self-knowledge. Hello. What a beautiful mantra it is. Incredible. Until you really learn the meaning, it has no context to it. Now this is so beautiful prayer. Now who is this Rudra? The Rudra is the source. Where is the source? Huh? Where is the source? In Puttaparthi? No, where is the source? Inside you, because it started from here, no? Om Namo Bhagavate Rudraya. It is inside us. It is right here. And that source, now it is expressing it. It should be expressed in a aghora. It should be expressed in a peaceful way, so that it destroys the mistakes and it destroys any aspect of misalignment with your identity. And that misalignment, because Girisham, he is the only one, that is the one that has realized that supreme self-knowledge. He will be able to show it to you. And in fact, Guru does not teach or preach. Guru actually makes you see who you are. And that's why the greatest of the Gurus do not teach by saying things. They teach by just looking at you. And that's why they are the greatest of Gurus. Just like a turtle hatches its eggs just by looking at the eggs. It doesn't even go and hatch the eggs. This is the other aspect about, now people think, oh, God came in the form of a turtle, Kurma Avatar, and there is a story associated. That's where it starts and ends, but there is a symbolic significance behind it. Turtle is the animal that lives the longest. You know why? Last night I was telling this at Abhishekam. So, turtle actually lives the longest because it knows its own metabolism. It has the ability to refrain its senses. It walks slowly, steadily, and it has a presence of itself. And each of these animals in the nature have a lesson to teach you. And you have to, because Dattatreya was asked, Dattatreya is the guru of all the gurus. When he was asked who was his guru, he named 24 things in the nature that was his guru. See how this is very important for the children to know, because everything in the nature teaches you what to do or what not to do. Okay? So by observing the nature, the greatest of the gurus became the greatest of gurus. Now today no nature. Is there any nature around us? Yeah, it's all destroyed. Forests are destroyed. Everything is destroyed. So, yes? Sorry, I thought somebody was asking question. Okay. So, Yamishum Girishanta Haste Bibharshastave Sivam Giritratam. And this is the next sloka. I don't know why I am stuck on this. It's amazing. Something happened. Yeah, I have to. Too much Rudram chanting going on, so every time one mantra gets stuck in the head and it doesn't get out until you completely understand it, comprehend it. So, Yate Rudra Siva Tanur Aghora Apapakashini Tayanas Tanuva Shantamaya Girishanta Bhichakasihi. Now now you ask the question, why is there to be a need for God to exist as Ghora, or the fearful form? You understand? Somebody has, uncle, you just told, one kid asked me when we were learning, Rudram, last time he asked, uncle, why does even God has to exist in a fearful form? Ghora, Aghora, two different forms. Why does God to be even fearful? You said just now that God is never punishing, God is always loving. So why does even God come in a fearful form? Important question, no? Yeah. Swami said actually in a discourse, if I chose to come with all the Shankam, Chakram, the four hands and a great Kiritam and everything, blue body, you will all be running away or take me to a jail and put me in a jail or a cage and watch me like an animal. That's what he said. So in order for you to be pleasing and recognize the entire divinity is within me, I took this beautiful, pleasant form, the Satya Sai Avatar. So that you really know, but that's also the Maya. We just look at this beautiful form, we think, oh, he's a simple human being like us also. He also shaves, he also eats, he also, all the stupid things we do, he also, when I say that, well, mundane things that we do, he also is doing, eating and all that kind of stuff, right? That is to demonstrate to us that I am also like you, don't worry. You understand? It is not to say that I also do mundane things like you. To give you comfort, he takes this aghora form. And why does God has to be in ghora? There is in Summer Showers, 1974, Swami's discourse, he talks about this. Exactly about this shloka. That the same was seen by one as Shiva and another as Rudra has to be interpreted by saying that these two aspects are not intrinsic to God, but arise from the different attitudes which the devotees themselves possess. And I'll continue. Everybody understood the translation? What Swami is saying is, the two aspects of seeing God as Shiva or seeing God as Rudra, those two aspects of the most pleasant, peaceful, and the one that is the destructive, the dissolutional, and the one that causes the fear, those two aspects are not intrinsic to God, but they arise from the different attitudes which the devotees possess. As an illustration, now Swami always gives a great statement and then he illustrates with simple example that every one of us, that Khana, Pina, Sona, Marna can understand. And that is, as an illustration, we note that when we eat some things within limits, it is not going to cause any harm and will be useful. On the other hand, if we exceed the limit and overeat, the same very thing can cause disease and lead us to even death. See how he illustrated? So is the problem with the food? No. What is the problem with the guy that is consuming the food? One guy loves chili and he can eat like me, avocado, whatever. Very, very much that we want. But there are other guys, like poor guys like my friend Kumar, he cannot even touch chili. Is the problem with the chili or the two people? Chili is what chili is. It has no this thing associated with causing harm or causing happiness to anybody. For Kumar it causes harm. For Shekhar it causes happiness. Now, see how this is what's called practical spirituality, not some high funda spiritual stuff nobody will understand. Now, how Swami made the chili aspect is, for one it is causing happiness, for another it is causing harm. So the problem is not with the chili. If your metabolism is different or if you have allergies, the same food causes allergy for someone, same food causes unhappiness or happiness to different people. So what God is looking at as fearful, the reason why he took that fearful Vajranakhaya vidmahi, Tishnadagashtraya dhimahi, Tanno Narasigam prachodayat. Why did he took that fearful form? Because the demon inside Hiranyakashipu wanted to see Hari as his enemy. That is how he yearned for. He is always thinking of God as enemy, enemy, enemy. Let me go kill him. Let me go destroy him. That was his constant focus. And therefore God chose the most fearful form and destroyed the Hiranyakashipu. The same incredibly fearful form for Prahlada looked very pleasant. Little kid, he was not even scared. Even Lakshmi was scared to approach Narasimha because he was so fearful. But for the little boy Prahlada, he looked gorgeous. Same two people in the same two room. God was a killer for one, but was the most supreme avatar for the devotee. Now, if you understand this this particular summer shower, so what now important here, then one could ask the question, do we have to take God in limits? No, that's not what he's saying. Everything is now, this monkey mind interprets. The focus here is that God is the supreme one. He is to begin with absolutely no form or no guna attached to him. He is nirgunam, Niranjanam, Sanatanam, Niketanam, Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Nirmala Swarupinam. That is what God is. Nirgunam, no attribute. Niranjanam, blemishless. Sanatanam, eternal. Niketanam, symbolic. Nitya, always present. Shuddha, pure. Mukta, liberated. Nirmala, no impurity. Swarupinam. So this is like what's called an oxymoron, difficult to understand. How can the one that is attributeless could be also have a form, Swarupinam? That is the beauty of understanding about God. So this God is nothing but a reaction, reflection and resound. Swami basically very simply says all the time, everything around you is 3 R's. I just said it, hello? Under 15. Reaction? One. Okay. You are listening very carefully, I can see that. Reaction, reflection, resound. Reaction, reflection and resound. Yes?
Can I tell the story of Hiranyakashipu?
Okay. Yes, one of these days we'll have a satsang only with the children and then you can tell all the stories. That's very wonderful. Yeah, I'm happy you're listening carefully. 3 R's, reaction, reflection, resound. So God appears in a form based on the reaction, reflection and resound of the devotees. It's nothing to do with Shiva is the most auspicious, Rudra is the most fearful. This is not what it is. Okay, you understand? Now you connect to, Swami also says one time, Swami looked at somebody and he was like frowning and he was like looking at him very, looking very angry and looking, and he was slapping him, hitting him on the cheek like that, and then he was doing like this and all that stuff. So now the guy, Swami just walked by and one person asked him, Swami, kopam vachinda? He asked him, Swami, did you get angry with that boy? Then he said, Kopam radu bangaru, tetsukuntanu, he said. He said, I don't get angry. He said, I impose anger upon myself. So if we feel that God is something fearful, that fear is coming from within us, from some corner, for something that only we know, even better than God, that we did something wrong. So, but the point is, you don't live in the guilt. Don't feel guilty about it. You connect to it and you get closure with it and you move on. If you are unhappy with someone, just tell him, I am unhappy and you're done. Don't carry the baggage. But instead of that, what we do is we carry the baggage. And this baggage is, this guy said something, one bag. That guy said another thing, another bag. This guy said something. He looked at me different. This baggage is going on and on and on and on. And then we cannot even finally walk. Unload the baggage every single second. Done. Move on. Happy, free. You can run. You can go for a marathon. But instead, if you carry the baggage you have to carry on and on and on. And sometimes you carry this baggage for lifetimes. This is you don't need to read Wayne Dwyer and this guy, that guy, Stephen Covey. Just understand the mantras of Rudram. Supreme spirituality is described here. Personal development is described in these mantras. Because the seers actually understood what a human nature is. And to convert that human nature into divinity is what is the essence of learning these mantras. It is nothing to do with your religion, Abhishekam and all that kind of stuff. All that is just a process to get focus of people together. It is just process. But in the process, you realize the principle. Just like in the word spiritual, there is the ritual. Yes, Amma Meera, you have a question burning? No? Okay. Okay. So, Yate, no. Yeah, that's the correct one. जाते रुद्र शिवा तनोरघोरा पापनाशिनी यामिषुं गिरिशन्तहस्ते बिभर्ष्यस्तवे सेवां गिरिहृतां कुरु माहि गुंसि पुरुषं जगत्. Now, are all of you feeling that, oh, today I wanted to come and learn 3 more mantras and Shekharji just left where it was last week? How many of you are genuinely feeling like that? Yeah. But the point is, if you learn 3 slokas, I'm not doing a syllabus like I should complete Rudram in 3 weeks. This is like crash course, learn Tamil in 30 days. Then the Tamil will be so harmful to others and yourself. So I'm not doing a crash course. Because for me, the beauty of actually learning this Rudram is to really relate to what it means to our own selves and to our own lives. This is the essence of this great, great wisdom that was given by the seers. Now, Yamishum Girishantahaste Vibharishyastave. Yamishum. This Ishu is the arrow. This arrow of yours that you are carrying in your hand. Now let me read the literal meaning. Resident of the mountains and giver of all good, make the arrow you hold in your hand peaceful. Do not destroy the people or the material world. That is the literal meaning. Yamishum girishanta haste, haste hand, bibharshya stave, that is you are carrying in your hand, let it be bibharshihi, peaceful. Sivam, most auspicious, let it be auspicious. Giritratam, the one that protects the self and the knowledge of the self. Kuru ma higumsihi, please do not cause any harm to Purusham, to the Purusha, Jagat, and also the Jagat. Now, we use the word Jagat so many times. In fact, a lot of people are named Jagat also. It has a very interesting meaning to it. Ja means the one that comes. Gat means the one that goes. The one that comes and goes is called Jagat. This is how Swami explained the meaning in one discourse. Very simply. In fact, in one experience I had with him, I asked him, what is that famous quote, Shankaracharya's quote? Jagan Midhya. Brahma Satyam Jagan Midhya. There are 2 words you have to understand. Again, Swami says, Brahma and Brahma. They sound very close to each other. Brahma and Brahma. Brahma means illusion. Brahma is the supreme. Lot of people live in Brahma and only a few in Brahma. Huh? Nitin, what, you're getting happiness out of it? Yeah. So, because I know a lot of these children live in Brahma, and we create the Brahma for them most purposefully, so that since this, there are so many stories, including Namdev. Namdev, when he was a child, I was telling this story at one of these, now I don't know where I tell these stories, but whatever one of these, I was telling the story about Namdev, right? The father told him that, hey, just put the prasadam and come. And he said, what happens to this prasadam? He said, God eats. What God eats? And he goes to the temple, God is not coming and eating. And he is now really worried. Father told God will come and eat. God is not coming and eating, and he sits there until God comes and eats. Now this is what is living in Brahma. Brahma is, here is a picture of God, and here is a chair of God, here is a robe of God, and the Brahma is that he is not sitting here. That is the real Brahma. The Brahma is absolutely Swami is sitting here. Absolutely he is sitting and listening. And in fact, he will come and tell me what I told in some classes. How can that be that he is not listening? He is absolutely sitting and listening. Children, every time you sing a bhajan, take it from me for granted, Swami is listening. He will even tell. You know what happened? There was a great devotee. When he used to go to the center, just like I am doing today, he wouldn't be able to put the last button on the kurta because of whatever reasons. So he will leave this button open and he will be going to the center, sitting in the front row, singing bhajans. Swami called him for interview one of the times. And then when his Swami called for interview, he was fully buttoned up, you see. He has to be, Swami's physical form. Swami walks and sits into the chair. Why did you put that last button you don't put at the center every week? So is he watching us at the center?
Yes.
Absolutely he is watching us. He is listening to our bhajans. And to think that we are just going to center is a Brahma. To think that we are actually coming to Puttaparthi every weekend is the Brahma. Now they are all wondering, what is he talking? My dad forces me to go. My mom forces me to go. What is this uncle saying that this is Puttaparthi? Puttaparthi is put apart I. Wow. Somebody is evolved by that. Huh? Puttaparthi is not a place. Put apart I is Puttaparthi. That's the real spelling of it. Every weekend, at least for 2-3 hours, you come and you put apart your mere, meager, mundane I. Then you are coming to Puttaparthi. That is the Brahma. And think that we have to go to Puttaparthi to see Swami every 2-3 months is? Hello. Now we are wondering what is Brahma, what is Brahma. Intentionally I am confusing you, but that is also Brahma, this is also Brahma, but the attitude is what is Brahma or Brahma. That is what creates the attitude. Your attitude is either Brahma or Brahma. If you think God is fearful, God will be fearful. If you think God is peace and God is everything, happiness, God is happiness. And because God has no agenda. God is nothing but a reaction, reflection and resound of your own attitude, of your own perceptions, of your own way of living. Very simple and straightforward. Easy said than done. But yet, Yamishum girishanta haste bibharshastave sivam giritratam kuru ma higumsih. Please do not cause any harm to Purusham, the being, Jagat, and the material world. And the reason why the Jagat is referred to as material world is everything in this material world comes and goes. Jagat. Brahma Satyam Jagan Midya. I asked Swami, how can the Jagat, because I understood Jagat until Swami explained this meaning, that Jagat is everything around you. How can everything around you be not real? Because that is, I can feel myself. I can eat the avakai. I am enjoying it. It's very beautiful. The sweat is coming out. And I'm really, really enjoying the avakai. How can that be mithya? I asked him. And he said, eat lot of it, then you will know. This Brahma Satyam Jagan Midya means what he said is there were a lot of people that wrote interpretations and commentaries on that sloka. Swami made it so simple. He said Brahma Satyam means the one that is there all the time is the Brahma. The one that is coming and going is Mithya. Mithya means delusion. So Kuruma Higumsihi Purusham Jagat. Now here is the thing. You are praying to the God, you are praying to this destroyer that please do not cause harm to the being and the material world. Now this is very important. Why are we praying to God that don't cause harm to the material world? Because we are all taught that material world is unimportant, it is so mundane, it is trivial, we should not pay attention to that, etc., etc. You are told not to pay attention to it and not to associate with it, but it is required for your living. Nobody can deny that you require money to live. Nobody will deny that. And even Swami himself says, there is nothing wrong in earning money, in living, but sealing on desires is what is required for a good spiritual living. Swami says, exactly, quote unquote, be in the world but not of it. Be in the world but not of it. So Purusham is being. World is Jagat. You require both for the lotus. The world the lotus lives in is mud and muddy water. But that is where actually the lotus is drawing all the nutrients and becoming a beautiful lotus to blossom. So you are living in the world of father-in-law, mother-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, this-in-law, that-in-law, colleague, this and that, and all of them are sometimes painful, some of them much more than the others, etc. But yet you are praying to Rudra, please don't destroy them, because I require them for my living. And how is it that you require them for your living is because without that kind of trouble and that constant situation of paying attention to yourself, you will suffer from happiness and you will go into complacence and therefore you will not be evolving spiritually. Therefore, God, protect my being and the world I am living. Om Sri Sai Ram. Time up. Sai Om, let's say Om and Trishan. Om.